Welcome back, everybody. I'm Naha, and this is 30 Days of Tarot. Since I've been doing this series, I have just been living, eating, and breathing the cards. Every dream that I have, I'm dreaming about tarot. When I walk down the street, I feel like I'm seeing the characters and I'm interacting with them. Every time I close my eyes, I'm seeing images of the tarot cards swirling around. So it doesn't matter that I have been working with tarot for over 20 years. I've never had such a completely saturated, integrated, intensive experience with them that they've just completely infiltrated every single corner of my life. But with that, it's also really got me thinking of the different ways that I use and work with the cards, and especially because I'm a professional tarot reader, but then I also use them so much for my own personal practice and exploration, and in some regards, not even in necessarily the spiritual sense, but just in the sort of keeping the artistic juices flowing kind of sense, because I love the artwork so much and I love different artists' interpretations of meanings and just the great variety that you can get. I hope that what I've brought to you guys throughout this series is a really diverse look at all the different ways that tarot can be approached, and sometimes it's graphic and sometimes it's photographic and sometimes it's through paintings or collage or just any of these different mediums that sometimes can be modern and sometimes can be ancient and abstract or specific, and I just find all of that really fascinating. And then of course for me it is also a very deeply spiritual practice, and that is about really looking within the self and focusing on self-growth, self-awareness, really taking a look at the things that sometimes my conscious mind doesn't necessarily want to look at. And I truly find that that is where the most important messages arise for me from the tarot. Now, of course, when I'm doing readings for people, and even sometimes for myself, there is that sense of wanting to know what's coming up, what's going to happen, what does the future hold? And it's always been my belief that the future is just dependent upon the choices that you make and the actions that you take. But of course, there are going to be external circumstances that do affect your life, and we don't always have control over those things. But I believe that the cards can show us where to focus our energy, the things that we need to be putting energy towards, or the things we need to be drawing our attention away from, in order to end up getting the effects that we want, to attract the things that we want, to open up the doors of opportunity that we want, and also to see kind of beyond our limited scope of what we think we want. And I find that the tarot can also be just very, very encouraging when we're kind of on the edge of something, going, should I, shouldn't I? And we just need that boost. We need that affirmation to say, yes, go for it, do it. Fling yourself over the edge of the cliff like the fool. Take a leap of faith. And sometimes it can also just be very, very helpful to say, look, we're giving you an affirmation that this is a difficult situation. And it's not just going to be a snap your fingers and heal everything, but there are always techniques and ways that you can work through things. And largely how those techniques are derived are by looking at the associated element of the problem. So the tarot divides everything up into its elemental components, and that is done through the 4 suits. So we have the suit of wands, which corresponds to the element of fire. And fire has everything to do with our will, our direction, our spiritual truths, our higher aspirations, and really what it is that we are persevering and conjuring up in our life. Just like the magician waves his wand. And then we have the suit of cups, and cups is the element of water, and it has everything to do with our feelings, our moods, our desires, and our empathy, our bonds with other people, our dreams, and everything that is sort of our interior personality. And then we have the suit of swords, which corresponds to air. And air is all about the mind and speech and communication and thought. And also along with that, worry and stress and spinning wheels in our minds. And the suit of swords can oftentimes be very difficult because it's not uncommon that people have no control over their minds. Their thoughts are oftentimes doing them a disservice by stressing them out and worrying about too many things. And that is why things like meditation are so important, to be able to get some control over all of that stuff and bring some quiet to the mind. And then the suit of pentacles, the suit of discs, the suit of coins, corresponds to the element of earth, and that is all of the physical reality around us. So it's our work and our home and our physical body, it's our money and all of our material possessions. So when we have an issue in one of those areas, If we need some assistance either in cleaning it up, healing it, or pushing it forward, we work with the element that is associated with that thing, especially in the terms of being a magical practitioner, which I consider myself very much one. Specific magical practice and the path which I walk is that of the Western mystery traditions. And another term for that is Hermetic Kabbalah. And as a Kabbalist, I work with numbers and letters and symbols and images and weave these things together and use them as a system. And that system helps me to see the interworkings of everything and how everything is related and connected. And if I have a weakness in one area, then I can use other areas around it to bolster that. But back to the elements, when I have an issue in the emotional area, then I can do work around the element of water. And if that means how I interact with water changes, I go stand out in the rain and let it cleanse me. I go jump in the ocean, I take a bath, I drink more water and flush my body out. Likewise, if I'm having an issue in the realm of my mind, in my thoughts, if I'm too stressed out, I'm going to work with the element of air. So I'm going to do my breath work. I'm going to talk to the people that I need to talk to. And in having that conversation, I'm going to air it out, whatever's going on with me. I'm going to listen to music. I'm going to do aromatherapy. All of these things correspond with air because it's aspects that are carried either on the air or on a wave which travels through the air. Light is another one. Light passes through the air on a light wave. And so color therapy and light therapy can be very helpful. So tarot as a part of my personal practice is absolutely something of my everyday life. And then, of course, I also use it with my one-on-one clients and trying to help them to see these things as well. And I use it in my magical practices in a talismanic sense, giving me a focal point, giving me an image and a wealth of symbols to use and take into my working, whether that is a guided meditation or a more formal ceremonial working. And a lot of these are also things that I do with my magical group here in Los Angeles, the Arboretum Mysticum, which I've shared a little bit about with you guys. And if you want to find out more about that, you can find it all on my website, 22 Teachings. But we better go ahead and open a deck before I run out of time today. And the deck that I'm opening today actually is a Kabbalistic deck. And it's come to me, this is a deck that I ordered on eBay. And it's very special for the fact that this is a deck that was created by a mother and daughter duo. And I have a feeling that a lot of you guys are going to have this deck. This is one that actually has been reprinted in the last few years. It originally came out in 1992, and in 2013 they released a 21st anniversary edition. And so this is called the Tarot of the Spirit. And the version that I ordered is actually the original version, and it looks like this. It comes in a purple box. And this was created by Pam Ekans, who is the author, and Joyce Ekans, who is the painter. Now, there's also a companion book to this deck, which I have, and I've read some of, but I haven't gotten fully into it yet, and that is this, the Tarot of the Spirit. And I believe they might actually have a second book, but I will tell you, this is a novel. I mean, this book is so dense. If you were to have this deck of cards and this book, you would have an entire wealth and system of working with tarot and Kabbalah, because this really, really goes deep into it. For every card, not only is there divinatory meanings and interpretations, but she also has a meditation for every single card. And it's kind of like a poetic invocation, something that you could read to yourself, light a candle, pull that card, and then enter into a meditation with. And there's just a wealth of knowledge in here. And I think that even if you didn't have this deck, this book would be really powerful for anybody that loves tarot. So I encourage you guys to look for Tarot of the Spirit. Of course, I will leave you guys links. Now, I have heard that the new reprinted version of this deck, the 21st anniversary edition, really was an upgrade. I've heard that the colors are better, that they're brighter. Because I'm just old school, you know, I like to get the originals, but I have a feeling that if I really feel connected to this deck, I am going to go ahead and get the newly updated version. Sometimes there's just better access to be able to scan artwork in modern times than there was, 20 years ago. So let's go ahead and start taking a look at these. Now, because this deck is used, the cards are actually not in order. And I was thinking maybe I would go ahead and put them in order, but you know what? I'm actually not going to do that, because I feel like we always start taking a look at the same cards. So we always look at the Fool, we always look at the Magician. Look at this Devil. Wow. So I thought that it would be better to just go ahead and go through. Now this card, it says the sacred cord, and it's the two of water. And what you're going to notice in this deck, that they've gone ahead and rather than calling this the two of cups, she's just named the suits after the elements that they represent. And she's also given this idea here of the sacred cord, and you can think of that as the connection between two people. And we also have the tarot deacons. I showed this to you guys in the last video in the Tabula Mundi. So we can see that the two of water corresponds to Venus in Cancer. See, one of these, whenever we have the deacons, will be a zodiac sign. And it will always be a zodiac sign that has the same element as the card. So you're never going to see a card of cups or water and have it be a planet in the sign of Aries, because Aries is fire. So cups will always have either Pisces or Scorpio or Cancer on them. This is the cover of the book, and we see that this is Sister of Earth. She's also taken the court cards, and instead of king, queen, page, knight, or knight, queen, prince, princess, it looks like they've gone ahead and done mother, father, sister, brother. So this would correspond to what we would call the page of pentacles. She has it as the sister of earth. Just beautiful. And I'm not disappointed by the color of these cards. I was a little bit concerned that they were going to be not vibrant, since I've heard that the new version really is. And I know one of my students that has this deck. Oh, I love this, the Four of Wind. So this would be like the Four of Swords. And we can see it's Jupiter and Libra. Libra's an air sign, right? Wind, of course, representing air. So I'm going to have to do a little side-by-side comparison with her deck and see how different these really are. Now, one thing that's very interesting, oh, see here, we have the King of Wands, is that all of these cards were supposedly painted over a diagram of the Tree of Life. So if we were to overlay that over the cards, we might be able to see more here. Here we can kind of see this sense of the Tree of Life. Here's the lower triad. And what a beautiful 10 of Earth, the great work. I love that. Mother Wind, that would be the Queen of Swords. This is just beautiful. Do you have this deck? I'm curious. You know, you don't have to be a Kabbalist. You don't have to practice Hermetic Kabbalah to work with a deck like this. There's the Magician, and look at that symbol of infinity. It's just this flowing movement up here. Beautiful. This is the cover of the newly released deck. The Five of Water, that's the Five of Cups. Those cups spilling outward. And the Seven of Earth, or the Seven of Pentacles, representing the garden. So the new version of this deck actually comes with a transparent card that has the Tree of Life on it, so that you can overlay that over the top of this image and take a look at what's kind of shining through and how it lines up. This is a funny one, isn't it? Eight of Water, Eight of Cups, still waters. Beautiful. So I want to read for you a little bit about the artist and the writer. And we'll talk about the artist first, Joyce. And remember, she's the mother. It's her daughter who was the scribe and wrote the book. 1,000 years ago, Joyce Ekans did a painting entitled "Someday I'll Live by the Sea." So after 108 years of painting and exhibiting her work nationally and internationally, teaching painting and yoga and working with the Kabbalistic tarot of the spirit, she was led to a yellow house at the edge of the world where she now resides, living where land and sea and sky connect. Oh, love that. An even deeper level of awareness is unfolding. In this higher vibratory field, a new dimension of being is evolving, consciousness is expanding, boundaries are dissolving, and the joy of cosmic awareness is completely claiming her. Her creativity is flourishing, and Joyce realizes now that all of the events of her life have been guided by spiritual aspiration. What an absolutely beautiful, fulfilling story, right? This is the One of Wind, what we would know as the Ace of Swords, the Dawn. She goes on to say, painting the tarot of the spirit was one of the most rewarding, satisfying, and adventurous pilgrimages ever granted her. She felt a strong intuitive urge to create this work. It demanded discipline, responsibility, and sharp discernment. Once the work was started, cosmic creativity took hold. Deeper and deeper intuitions came forth. A new sense of enlightenment sparked her being. Wow. Working through the years with the tarot of the spirit has been an infinite labor of love. Now I want to go ahead and show you guys on some of these majors, something that I've spoken about in other videos. And that is that when you use the tarot with the Kabbalistic system, with the Tree of Life, you end up having not only the deacons corresponding to the minor cards and the elements corresponding to the court cards, but you also have a specific correspondence for each of the major cards. And it can be either one of the 3 mother elements, fire, water, air, one of the 12 zodiac signs, or one of the 7 classical planets. And when we have those, we also correspond each of those aspects to one of the Hebrew letters. So through Kabbalah, every card has a number, the cards have letters, and they have signs and symbols and meanings. They connect to the planets, and then the planets connect to gods, and it just kind of goes on and on and on. Once you start pulling the little thread of Kabbalah, it ends up unraveling and opening up into this whole amazing world of connections and correspondences. It just really, really weaves in and out. And it's funny because at first glance, it just seems so completely complex. But the truth is that where this is meant to lead you to is to absolute simplicity. It leads you back to the one. You start from a place of unity. You start from one, from the ace, from the seed, from the single point. And as it unfolds into the 2 and the 3, and things start getting more complicated, and it unfolds into the 4 and the 5, and we start realizing a greater responsibility that we have. We come into the 6, and then we start to synthesize all of that together into the self. In the 7 and the 8, we bring in the concepts of our intellect and our emotions. It dives down into the 9, into the subconscious, and comes out at the bottom in full manifestation in the 10s. And then ultimately from there, we rise back up, just as we rise back up the tree. And we ultimately are looking to get back to source, which is really the point of all spiritual practice, to get back to source, to get back to the one, having gone through the complexity of all of the lower levels and explored all the different pathways to find ourselves back at a place of simplicity and unity. Now, the Hebrew letters do have their own meanings, and sometimes that can be found in cards that are Kabbalistic. So here's an example. This is the death card. Now, death corresponds to the zodiac sign of Scorpio, which we're in right now. And so we can see the symbol of Scorpio here. And it also corresponds to the letter Nun in Hebrew. So it's small, but you can see the letter Nun there. Now, remember, this is the version of the correspondences that the Golden Dawn brought forward. So the Golden Dawn, that very, very important turn of the century magical working group that really took all of these older systems and boiled them down and adjusted them and said, let's really make some sense of things. And they updated the correspondences, and those are the ones that are used by a lot of more modern working groups. And you can explore that work more through authors such as Dion Fortune and Gareth Knight and Paul Foster Case. And I have a lot of their books on my recommended reading on my website, so you guys can check that out. But the letter Nun in Hebrew corresponds to a fish. And actually, if we look at the death card, we can see a little fish up here. So you might think, fish, what does that have to do with death? Why is there a fish on the death card? Well, now you know, because it corresponds to the letter. And now let's hear a little bit about the daughter, who is Pamela. Anciently of the clan Ekans of the Isle of Skye, Pamela Ekans is a scribe, sculptor, minister, professor, and peacemaker. She is taught at the University of Colorado, Stanford University, and the California Institute of Integral Studies. Ooh, that's nice. 7 of Water insight. Isn't that pretty? That's Venus in Scorpio. She's the author of many books, and she teaches courses dedicated to personal transformation, cosmological understanding, and practices of peace. Writing Tarot of the Spirit, she now knows that the cosmos is a living entity full of signs, symbols, and synchronicities that offer guidance every minute of the day. I love that. The crossing, 2 of Wind. And I often say this to my students, synchronicity is always around us. It's just that sometimes we see it more than other times. So there can be those times that we think that every time we turn around, we're seeing some kind of a synchronicity. And it seems like it comes in like these little pockets. You know, you have a couple days where you're just totally linked in and everything is a sign. Well, it's not that sometimes there's signs and sometimes there's not. It's just that sometimes we're really in the groove and sometimes we aren't. Pamela Ekans has learned that she herself is universe itself on the fabulous journey of passionate creativity. As she writes in the Tarot of the Spirit, together we will find seeds of new life and bring form to fruition. We shall create a new world in the image of our inner vision. We have only to imagine it and it will become. And this is largely what being a magical practitioner really does mean to me. It's about using the power of the mind to create our life, to create our world, and to see beyond the possibilities and the programs and the things that we've been told and the expectations that are put upon us by others, to say, this is my life, what do I want it to be? You guys have the choice to decide that and to create that and to change your lives. I love the three-dimensionality of this Wheel of Fortune just coming. And here we have another expression of the Hebrew, because this corresponds to the letter Kaf, K-A-P-H, which we can see right here, and it's planet Jupiter. And Kaf means the palm. And we can see that this wheel is coming right up out of the palm of a hand. And whenever we see these four colors, that also corresponds to the four elements, so we can see all of those things kind of combining and balancing there. There's the Chariot. Well, what do you guys think? These are really cool, aren't they? And here we see the Tree of Life and all of its spheres. Rainbow Mirror, 9 of Water, 9 of Cups. The Hierophant, looking very benevolent there. This is the card of Taurus. Well, I'm excited about these. I think they're very powerful. I love the sacred geometrical aspect. And I do think that this would be a really good deck for somebody who really wants a deck for personal exploration. Maybe not so much one for fortune telling or one that's going to spell out what's going on with everybody else, but one for really looking deeply within the self and uncovering things. We see the lightning flash there. And there's the Star. And we're ending with Temperance. So it's kind of cool to go through the deck in a completely random order, wasn't it? See kind of like a compass there. I think that these are really beautiful. So Tarot of the Spirit. And again, there is that new edition. I don't know if the backs are different or the same, but this is the back of the purple edition that you can see here. As always, I'm so grateful for you guys being here. Thank you for your comments. If you have this deck, please comment below. Tell me what your favorite card is. And if you have any other questions or anything that's confusing to you about Kabbalah, I asked you guys before if you wanted more videos on that, and I got an overwhelming response of yes. So I am really excited about that, and I really look forward to bringing you guys more videos teaching you about Kabbalah and the Tree of Life, and that's something that we're going to really start delving into. I've got some really exciting things in mind for you guys once 30 Days of Tarot is over. So I'm going to be bringing in some artists. We're going to be doing some artist interviews here on the couch. Some other interesting magical practitioners that I can get to come over for a little chat. And we will still be doing tarot unboxings, just not every day. But believe me, even though we got through most of the pile is still nowhere near at the end. I also plan on sharing with you guys some of the practices and rituals from my new book, Everyday Crystal Rituals, so we can start talking a little bit about stones too, and maybe I can show you guys some of my crystal collection. So there's a lot of cool things to come. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Make sure and like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see y'all tomorrow. Bye.